Welcome back to Speaking Our Truth, the podcast where we dive deep into the mystical, the spiritual, and the unseen. I'm your host, Jolene Matthysen. I'm a psychic reader, energy healer, demonologist, and past life regression therapist. In this space, we explore the connections between our past, present, and future, and covering the truths that shape our souls. Today, we're delving into a fascinating and deeply transformative topic, past lives and soul contracts. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection, like you've known them forever, or faced challenges that seemed almost predestined? This could be the work of soul contracts, which are agreements that are made before we are even born, shaping the lessons and relationships in this lifetime. I'm honored to be joined by the incredible Hanna Holley, who is a gifted psychic medium, an energy healer, and past life reader. Together, we'll explore how past life experiences influence our current journey, the karmic ties that bind us, and how understanding these contracts can bring healing and clarity. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and open your mind as we journey beyond the veil. Let's begin. So welcome, Hanna. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about these past lives and soul contracts together.
Yes. So, we had a bit of a brief discussion earlier about so I just want to touch on that to start off with. In terms of, I know a lot of people these days are of the opinion that we have, that time is fluid and everything is happening in on this concurrently. Every timeline is concurrent. I am of the opinion that I'm not sure I can quite wrap my brain around that, because I still believe that there are past lives in terms of that we can actually, some people can actually go back and have memories and can remember names and can look up that and see that these people actually existed. And I believe you believe the same as I do. Is that correct, Hanna?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think that the concurrent timelines and the lives that people experience that are semi-similar to their life that they're living and the past lives that people can recall with such detail are separate. I don't feel those are the same. I feel like all of energy and all of these quantum realities are similar, but not the same in a way that we could fully understand it.
Yeah, I'm very much on the same page as you are there. So another way in which you can, which I feel is a sign that you could have potentially lived a past life, is if you have a connection to certain cultures or could have memories one way, not another way, like one way. Like if you feel like you have specific, perhaps even memories or images or a deep interest for something, let's just say for the pyramids in Egypt or something along those lines, this could well be an indication of you having lived a past life or an incarnation of your soul. See, I would like to ask you a question, Hanna, in terms of this. Like, do you believe that your soul reincarnates as a whole, or do you believe in aspects of your soul? Aspects of a soul reincarnating, like maybe not in its complete.
I have never fully thought of it that way. However, with my personal belief of everyone kind of having their higher self, like when I'm trying to connect in mediumship, I tend to go straight to the higher self. Like if I'm trying to do a reading and someone's really having a difficulty, that's where I go. And I know that part of us is all seeing and all knowing. That's my belief. So I can't say that I think any of us are our whole and complete selves while living in the physical world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But then you get the aspect, like say now for some, like a well-known figure, like let's say like Cleopatra, you could have multiple people saying that they believe they have reincarnated from them.
And part of me wonders if we believe that because we do have like DNA from her and that holds memories as well. So I don't know if I would say that thousands of people are all Cleopatra reincarnated. However, I could say that they hold memories from her just because of genetic chain.
So that could tie in with the way I have just put it in words as being an aspect of the soul. So yeah, I think that both would make sense. It's just different wording.
Yes, and it's intricate. It's an intricate web, right? Life is not one straight path. In our past lives as well, they were not, you know.
Okay. So let's get like more specific so we can, now we got that past. Okay, so the concept of past lives provides a framework for understanding patterns, emotions, or situations that seem to carry over from, well, a past life into our current experience. So it's quite possible that you have had experiences in a previous life that you just haven't fully gone through the lessons, or you haven't dealt with the emotions or the traumas thereof, and you've brought it into your current lifetime.
Right.
Agreed? So you agree with that. So it could offer an explanation of why you may have irrational fears or unexplainable attractions or
Yes.
and these unresolved experiences can absolutely affect how you interact with the world today. And it can also affect, for an example, in terms of relationships, if you understand why you can't, like in a romantic relationship, if you don't understand why you can't be with a particular person, you may have past life baggage that have come across where you could potentially have negative feelings towards them, or they could have negative feelings towards you without any concrete or rational reason.
Right.
Do you have another way to make it? Okay, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's when you're thinking about why am I so scared of getting on a plane? Why can't I, have a relationship that lasts? Why can't I love myself? And you can't find that answer written in your story from this life. A lot of the time I find that there is something that resonates deeply from a past life that even almost just knowing about it can start to heal.
Absolutely. And it can relate to familial relationships as well,
100%.
or relationships with friends. Why do you
Positive
have
connections.
a positive, yeah, why do you not have a positive connection with, say, a parent or something? Because you carry this resentment over and over until you deal with it,
Right.
until you resolve it. And often we choose not to deal with it because, I mean, it's easier just to walk away from a problem sometimes, or so we think, than to deal with it. And we keep doing this through multiple lifetimes until we face the decision, or until we're not going to talk too much about cord cutting, yeah, but that's another way to resolve it. You could disconnect completely through all directions of time. But yeah, it's either learn the lesson or detach
Right.
completely from it.
And the result of that, it just depends on your journey, right? If you're doing it as an avoidance, it might not be the best, if you're doing it just to heal. And there's so many options for healing these things, and I think that's why we get to tune into them. I think that we would not have as good of understanding as of these past life readings if there wasn't healing that can come from them.
And absolutely, no, I wouldn't recommend you going straight for the cord cutting unless you've had some kind of confirmation, or to understand what it is that you're letting go of, at
Exactly.
least.
Yes.
Because you need to understand it in order to move on from it, or heal from it, or work through it.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about soul contracts here. So I think you may have a better understanding of it than I do, Hannah. So do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, so my understanding of soul contracts, and like I had said before, it's definitely a web. It's not a straight line. However, in your soul forward, or as your higher self, or at some point in your soul's journey, you have agreed to experience certain situations, certain emotions, certain people coming into your life, certain people leaving your life, certain jobs, your parents. There's so many different ways that soul contracts can show up in your life. And I find that the way that you can determine if it really is something that you have agreed to is if, number one, they're your family. You agreed to it. We don't have to like it now. we've agreed to it. Number two is someone who kind of just comes into your life and either makes it really, really good and amazing or makes it really, really bad and not amazing. That's usually someone who you've agreed is going to teach you a lesson in some way, or you are going to teach them a lesson. And those are the ones that I find more difficult, is when I feel like, what was that for me? Sometimes it wasn't for you, you know?
Agreed. So I saw something recently, and there was a bit of controversy around it. There was another spiritual person, I don't actually follow her, but who was talking about tearing up your soul contract. So there was a lot of controversy in that, because she obviously was for it, and some people were saying, but you would never tear up a soul contract. You can't do that. So what is your opinion on whether or not that would be a good, obviously not physically tear it up, but is that not in essence the same as cord cutting in a way?
I think it depends on the intention. I think it's the same. Like, if your intention is just like, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want this to be in my life and I cannot, then and I have 3 kids, so I'm not trying to be offensive, but it just reminds me of a tantrum, kind of. Like, I really don't want to deal with this big emotion, and I'm just going to scream instead. That I don't see working well. If your intention is like, I have put in my everything to this, I have done every single possible thing I can, and if at the end of the day I have to do it again, like I cannot keep my attachment to this, then yes, I think that's more of an appropriate intention for actual results. Like, you can do anything, but will the results be what you intended? Or would it amplify things in a way that makes it worse? I'm unsure. I think it's very situational also.
Well, it all comes down to intent, like you said, because if you're not fully ready to let go of everything and you're still holding on to it, I don't imagine it would work fully anyway. If you're like telling yourself you're letting go, but you're still holding on to aspects of it, I don't think it would work as well as, just simply wrapping it up and moving on.
Exactly. I mean, and that's, we have that choice with or without the ripping. We don't have to work on those soul contracts every single time. Sometimes it's a choice, right? But it just depends on your journey and what you're ready to grow,
I just think it's important to note that if you don't do anything, then if you've already signed up for those lessons in terms of your soul contract or your soul contracts, it would carry over.
Also,
it's my belief anyway, just carry on into your next lifetime.
Yeah, it absolutely will, because there really isn't an avoidance option, and you're the one who decided that for yourself. So, like, in the moment, it makes no sense, but just keep living through it, and I think it does help knowing that, like, whether it's something you can see right now or positive change does happen when we fulfill our soul contracts.
I think we can both agree that the soul contracts outline the plan for your current life, and your past lives represent the accumulated experiences, lessons, and unresolved energies that you bring with us.
Yes.
This incarnation. Do you agree with that? Okay. So in that sense, then your soul contract is the map, and past lives represent the journey you've already taken and the lessons you've learned along the way or haven't learned and brought.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of saying it.
So, okay, I've already touched on that past life lessons can be that you've experienced trauma or failure in a previous lifetime. You may find yourself repeating those patterns in this life in an effort to resolve those issues. Yeah, so they'll keep on recurring patterns until you either resolve them or decide that you don't need to continue living them. You accept the lesson, which is a resolution in itself. In terms of soulmates and soul groups, I personally believe that a soulmate, which ties in with a soul group, is simply just someone that you've lived a past life with. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be family or friendship. But it's somebody, your soul roots recognize each other.
Yes.
So you are that same. I don't see soulmates in terms of like people see it as it's the one person that is meant for you. You can have multiple soulmates, but they're not necessarily all romantic, or you may have lessons that you need to experience with more than one person before you end up with the right person.
Yes.
If there is a right person.
Right. Right. That is a
So-
huge thing, is going through the experiences needed to get where you actually want to be.
So maybe we should tie on, like, what are your thoughts on karmic partners or karmic, some people have the opinion that you have the person that's meant for you, and then you have a karmic partner who is not right for you, but I would say that they're still there to teach you some kind of lessons. But now, what are your beliefs in terms of that, or your thoughts?
I find it interesting. I can't say I've ever heard that specifically before, but I think that they're all soul contracts. And being so, if you decided, like, I want to be with this karmic partner, which kind of sounds like a twin flame situation. I know that's kind of like a taboo word for us, but it's just, it depends on what your soul wants for growth. I find that not many of us will grow a lot if we live a fairy tale ending in which nothing ever goes awry. That would be amazing. That would be great. That is not reality that I have found, right? So we have to, there's soulmates. You could have your partner, that's your person, right? But life is so complicated that maybe in your soul contract, that perfect person that you get with and you guys have this amazing life, but everyone else in your family falls off. Like, you get no one else. We don't know. We don't know what the contract is because we don't know what the lesson is. On the alternative, you pick your karmic partner, you put in the work, you go through years of it, and you're both dedicated, and who knows what the outcome of that situation is, right? It's all so personal depending on that person. And I feel like if you have a soul contract that you are unsure about, it's not a bad idea to get a second opinion, like get a reading from someone who is versed in that, to kind of guide you on what these outcomes could be, because it is endless.
I also tend to think that if you're an old soul, in terms of you've lived multiple lifetimes, you've made many connections, and if they happen to all culminate, or many of them culminate into your current lifetime, it would make things a little bit more complex, whereas you wouldn't necessarily encounter one soul connection, there would be multiple. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. And a lot of the times I feel like those people are those ones that, they con the term like, oh, earth angel, because they just find a way to like touch everyone in a way that is healing somehow. And I think it's just from pure experience and knowing souls. It's really, it's a gift for us. That's kind of how I feel. Once someone's been here and they know so much and they've experienced it and kind of like know how to, like, that perfect balance between attachment and detachment from past lives and soul contracts and all these different lessons and all the human emotions and experiences. And they kind of just guide everyone a little bit. Sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
But
yes, tough love.
Yes.
Sometimes they tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear.
Exactly, but that's still good.
Okay, so you as a reader, how would you go about helping somebody, or even your own, because I know you do past life readings, so I'm sure you've delved into some of your own experiences as well. But what methods would you use to uncover past lives and soul contracts?
So on an individual basis, I would definitely start with grounding and meditation, because you'll be surprised at what kind of pops in your head during those practices, especially when you've set your intention to kind of uncovering these things, whether it is a past life or a soul contract with someone, or maybe a soul contract with someone you don't know yet. Whatever it is that you're looking for, meditation and grounding is the first step to trying to find it. After those things, I tend to go with cards, because I find that even if I'm not reading the whole story, the sitter can definitely read between the lines of a lot of things that we're kind of bouncing between each other, because yes, I can tune in, but then those things start coming in like, oh, I've always felt this one certain way. And like that story from my life definitely makes sense as to why I would feel this way, kind of a thing, right? So I like the visuals of the cards. I think it helps get the story clear. And then those are my first go-tos. I would also say get a reading if that's something that you're able to do and the other things haven't given you the answers you're looking for. Outside of that, it's like some spiritual journey stuff, might not be for
Yes.
everyone.
Well, like self-reflection and journaling is one way, and shadow work, which I'm sure I would need to do a separate podcast on that, because that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I agree with the meditation and the explorations and then the psychic readings. Also, Akashic Records. For those who don't know, the Akashic Records is basically, it's a metaphysical database of all your souls and experiences throughout time. I know when I've gone into meditation in terms of Akashic Records, it's basically kind of like a library that stores everything like past, present, and future of your life experience. Kind of, I guess you could also refer to it in the Christian term of the book of life. So, but it's a book of lives. I would say, if we're looking at, since we've got the belief of reincarnation. So that's also one way. Some people are gifted enough to be able to explore it on their own, through meditation, or you could go to somebody who offers that as a reading. And then also there's past life regression, which I like to use as a tool. I also offer the past life readings where I can tell you about your past life and you can like fill in the blanks. But I like the past life regression because it helps you to take the journey yourself. So I, as the regression therapist, will just take you through the motions and you would then uncover the truths yourself. It would be your own experience, and you would be able to, which I feel is more healing than a reading in some ways, because the reading can tell you, like, this is your experience, now you know about it, which oftentimes can help you. But if you're somebody that is overly analytical and would like to pick everything apart, then in that case, then it would be better for you to explore it on your own. And also with past life regression, after the session, you would usually continue to have memories afterwards. So have you ever experienced a past life regression? I know you don't offer it, but have you ever had one, Hannah?
I have not had one myself. However, I've seen quite a few of them, and I can't believe I forgot to mention them when you were asking me about how to connect, because that is almost like a meditation journaling session on like steroids. It's just like everything that you need to heal, everything that needs to come out, and you're guiding it. That is probably the best way to get your personal needs met from your session. Does that make sense? Because you're
Yes.
vibing with it. You're getting the information yourself, and then, you are there to support that. I find that would actually probably be, if you can get the information you want from meditation and grounding, next step would definitely be the regression, because that's basically just an assisted meditation in a way. Does that make sense? I don't want to lessen what it actually is, but like, does that kind of describe it?
Yeah, it's more of a guided hypnosis, but yeah, I tend not to prefer the word hypnosis, because not everybody goes. There's this misconception that if you don't go into deep hypnosis or deep meditation, that it doesn't work. And that's not the case. I mean, I'm not somebody who, if you're neurodivergent in any way, then your brain does not shut down so much to the point that you can completely go under. And also, it's a whole trust. It's a trust experience.
Well, I have had
Go deep into
hypnosis.
that.
Yeah, I have had different hypnosis sessions, and I understand what you're saying. It's not what people think it is when you look at the magician show and they're snapping and
No, no.
clapping. You're
Some people can go into deep hypnosis, but not everybody does. And the misconception is that if it doesn't happen for you, that it doesn't work. And that's not the truth.
totally.
I mean, you just need to be able to, if you have intrusive thoughts or anything coming through, you just disregard it and try and realign your focus and just carry on. And again, like I said, with the past life regression therapy, you will continue to have memories afterwards, even if it's in dreams when you're conscious. So I mean, when you're not like in deep hypnosis, that's what I mean. Like, you can have memories also when you're conscious or when you go and sleep or whatever. So it's not, I don't feel like it's necessarily important to see it as a hypnosis.
Right. It's
More
just
of
an
a guided
individualized
meditation.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It's an individualized session.
And also, a lot of people I want to add, and then I'll add my own little personal story to this. And maybe if you have anything to share, that would be nice. But some people come into this, I'm sure everybody's heard of or seen these shows where children remember their past lifetimes, and people come into this life having memories of past lifetimes. And you may not know it at the time, depending on the environment that you're growing up in. I didn't know. I had memories my whole life, but because we didn't have those beliefs growing up about past lives, since we grew up in a Christian background, like most kids have imaginary friends, I had an entire family.
Yeah.
And my stories never changed. I carried the same stories throughout everything. And as I started on my spiritual journey, more moving away from the restrictive Christian beliefs and expanding, I realized that these are not stories. They were memories. And the closer I got to my guide, I got the blanks filled in for me. You know, because I mean, as a child, you think, oh, this is a cool story, and you stick with that. But I got all the rest of the blanks filled in, and I was able to fill in who all my family fitted into this lifetime. So that's my personal story. Do you have any personal story you would like to share?
I will. I love your story, and I think that is what a lot of kids experience is they feel it, like everyone tells them it's imaginary, and then we go with that, and then it's really hard to tune back in later when you realize, hey, that wasn't just imaginary. But I will share that a less heartwarming situation where when I was young and I would walk to school, every time I would hear a plane flying over, it would fill me with so much stress and anxiety and like fear. And it seemed so silly to me because I live in the United States and it's obviously a passenger plane, but I am fearful just walking to school. And when I would be getting ready for school, I would also like hear these different like stories that had no relation to me at all. And it was interesting, and I thought for a minute like this doesn't seem right. And I got a little concerned, and then I realized I have lived in a wartime, and I was at war when bombs were dropping, and that in my DNA just stresses me out. But now that once I recognize that, it doesn't happen now. Now I can walk and not freak out when I hear
because you were able to release the fear.
Yes.
Yes. And in relation to the past life that I had memories of, my whole lifetime, I don't know about my whole lifetime, but like for as long as I can remember, I deeply resonated with mothers who have lost their children either at like, you know, early on, like possibly like in the late stages of pregnancy, miscarrying, or soon after birth. I've never lost a child in this lifetime, but I would. It's one of the things that I try and shy away from. As a medium, I find that I more deeply resonate or am able to connect better with children that have passed like stillborn births or early on like that. But it wrecks me completely. Like I'm living it like I've experienced it myself when I've never experienced it in this lifetime. But this lifetime, after I got to fill in the blanks, this past life that was in the 1800s, my passing was 100 years prior to my birth, from what I could uncover. But in that lifetime, I lost the baby at like a young age, like younger than 3 months old.
Yeah.
So carrying that trauma into this lifetime made me feel like I was experiencing it, like I could relate to it as if I'd lived it.
Exactly. And that is where, yes, and I think that's where people get conflicted about the timelines and the past lives versus concurrent, because it does feel like you are living it because you have lived it. So kind of in that weird way, you almost are reliving it every time that you but in the same sense, you are the person to offer that healing to those others.
Yeah. Yeah. I did try and look into that, but I considered it, but I guess I found that people don't really want to open up about it. So when I like try to, expand it that way, people didn't want to, they're more comfortable asking about things like, does he like me, or will I get the job, or things like that. But when it comes to deep trauma on that level, I think people are afraid to fully reach out. So I can't say that too many people have had the courage to speak,
Yeah.
to open up about it. I mean, like it's happened a couple of times, but not so much that I can say that it's a common occurrence. So I say I shy away from it. I did, and then I tried to embrace it, but then I found people weren't willing to open up. And I want to just put it out there that it's with trauma on that level, it is important to open up. Like I've had experience with other trauma and trying to bottle it up for many, many years. I found that you don't ever heal from it. You don't ever recover from it fully. And then when you do try and uncover it, you just, I don't know, in my experience, it was worse than actually living through it.
Well, and
But
it causes
once you complete,
disease.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry. It causes disease in your body. The energies take.
Yes. No, absolutely. And in that reason, whereas if you this grief is different for everybody, so it can take you more time to get to the place where you're ready to do it. But if you put it off for too long as well, then it can be worse when it eventually comes up, because it will always come back. I mean, in my experience, I couldn't completely sweep it under the rug. It kept coming back and coming back until I eventually dealt with it. But then once I'd moved on, then I released all the feelings of guilt and resentment towards myself, and then I was able to heal from it, where I never healed when I was trying to ignore it. So speaking out about it or reaching out for help can absolutely give you the courage and the strength and the closure to be able to move forward. Because in that experience, I can't imagine that many mothers who have lost a child, that there's no guilt result, because everybody's going to say it's my fault, even if it's not. Even if there's no way it could possibly be your fault, we will believe that anyway.
Yes.
So
And there's more people that can resonate with that than I think care to admit or come forth in situations such as that, but also just many, many situations where we're holding on to it. We might not even know we're holding on to it until something like that comes up. Like that blank was filled in much later when something resonated within you that said, this is my experience too,
So, I think, unless there's anything else you would like to add, I think we've kind of covered everything.
Yeah, I just think
Would you
that
agree? Yeah.
I do agree. And I think that, having this discussion and opening up these doors can hopefully help people recognize that they're not having to struggle alone, and that there are many explanations to the plethora of things we experience in life. And it's not just cut and dry like some people want to make it seem. There's so many more levels of you that we can discover together.
Absolutely. So I already mentioned that Hanna offers readings. She's also a psychic medium. So do you want to share how people are able to contact you if they would like to reach out to you for a reading, whether past life or otherwise?
I think the best and most effective way to reach me is through Psychic Harmony on Facebook.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree. You can also find me there, or I will leave in the description if you're seeing this on YouTube how else you'll be able to contact me. But otherwise, yes, Psychic Harmony on Facebook is the best way to contact me as well if you're looking for any kind of reading or past life regression therapy. Thank you for listening. I hope you will tune in next time for our next episode. And until then, sending love and light your way.